You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
Before we get started, let's hear this short message from one of my supporters.
All the things that you won't do.
Did you know 81% of Americans would like to become a published author? Chances are you might be one of them. What's stopping you? Writing and publishing a book takes a lot of work and is expensive, right? Well, not anymore. For your next book project, or even your first, team up with Hassle-Free Books. They make it so easy to become an author. They remove all of the fuss and struggle and make it smooth and simple. And it's far more affordable than you could ever imagine. Go to hasslefreebooks.com and use promo code UNPAUSE to receive a 10% discount off of any book project. Get started right away and become a published author in as little as 45 days. For your free 1-hour book formula guide, which will show you just how painless it can be to become an author, head to hasslefreebooks.com today.
All right. Thanks again for joining me. Let's get started with today's show.
Took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of life.
Welcome to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. My guest today is Rabbi Mark Borovitz. Rabbi Mark is an addiction specialist, author, and senior rabbi at Bet Shuvah in Los Angeles. Rabbi Marks was once a gangster, a thief, and a drunk. I love that introduction. Today he's helping addicts of all kinds find recovery, not only from substances, but spirituality as well. His latest book, Finding Recovery and Yourself in Torah, A Daily Path to Spiritual Wholeness, is available on Amazon.com. Welcome, Rabbi Mark. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you, Callie. I'm really blessed and honored and grateful to be able to be on this podcast with you. You do really great work, and it's always nice to talk to somebody else who's in the trenches of helping people find not just recovery, but find a way of living that matches their soul.
I love the way you put that, because I think we have really lost the spiritual component of recovery. With treatment.
Absolutely.
And everything is about the number of count thread sheets you have on your bed, and it's less about the inside anymore.
Yeah, well, it's that, plus it's even worse than that. It's become a brain disease. So Big Farm and the AMA have now taken over recovery when they're the causes of addiction. They are part of a big part of this whole opioid epidemic, as well as people going to meth and being hooked on pills, etc. You only get them from the doctors and from Big Farm. I mean, Adderall is one molecule or something off of methamphetamine. The people who have created the whole crisis, who have been killing people forever, are now trying to cash in on the recovery movement. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And the general public, not knowing any better, is going along with it.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I feel like I've been over here on this island by myself screaming that suboxone is not the cure for heroin addiction, and getting a lot of pushback because everyone says, well, at least people aren't dying. And my solution is, well, Big Pharma has just become a legal drug dealer.
Right. Yes. Okay. So sure, Suboxone supposedly keeps people from dying, but even that's not true. I know many stories where people used heroin while on Suboxone. They crushed Suboxone up to get loaded. And the other piece is that not dying is not what recovery is about. Recovery is about recovering your integrity, recovering your essence, recovering a life that God and creation and families, etc., want you to live and need you to live. And that's what's happening, and that's what's so crazy about all this, is that nobody is really, really, really being truthful about it. Everybody wants to make a buck, and everybody wants to look good. Nobody is claiming responsibility. And recovery is all about being responsible. I mean, alcoholism, I'm responsible for everything I did as an alcoholic and as a criminal, and I'm responsible for everything I do today in recovery. And the moment that you make it a brain disease, then nobody's responsible. And that is the killer of the human spirit. Not being able to be responsible kills people, and it kills everybody around them, because then everybody's a victim. Nobody it's like nobody has any claim within them to, I made a mistake. I say the 5 toughest words for people to put together in one sentence is, oops, I made a mistake. And the problem, the solution, because that's really what I'm about, is the solution. The solution is a connection to a power greater than yourself, knowing that I'm not the end-all be-all. I'm not even an expert, okay, because expert has a connotation like guru and perfection. We are imperfect. We are created that way. So what are we trying for this perfection? It's a myth, a lie, and it's a soul-sucking killer. And it also messes with our brains and our emotions. So what we have here is society has bought into the Greek myth that we can be perfect. The Jewish myth is we're all works in progress, and we wrestle with God, we wrestle with ourselves, and we wrestle with each other to find a way of living that helps move along the world to a more whole place. Whole is not the same as perfection. Whole allows us to bring all of our parts together. In fact, in Jewish belief, we have a earthly inclination and a divine inclination. And we need both of them. But both of them have to serve a greater purpose than ourselves. And that's the real, that's the work of recovery. That's the work of a spiritual path, a spiritual discipline. And that's how we can live in community, and we can stop all the hatred and all the blame. Blame and shame go away when I'm responsible.
So you've been in this industry, 28 years or so?
Yeah, almost 29.
Tell me how you've seen it changed. I've been in it 20. So tell me what you've seen, what it used to be like and where we are now and how we got to this convoluted mess that we're in.
Well, what it used to be like, it was never just AA meetings or, that's all. It was always a combination of psychotherapy and spirituality. And it was also life skills. My wife, Harriet Rossetto, who's the founder of Beit Tshuva, says one of the most important things to do is to make your bed every morning. It deals with the existential crisis, because I'm going to get back into bed at night, so why do I have to make it? I make it because it means something, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference in how I live my whole life. I don't have to live it sloppy anymore. It went into a scientific thing, where all of a sudden you had to have evidence-based therapies. And people said that to us, and I said, look, we have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people who are living better. They're the evidence. And they said, oh, no, that's not scientific enough. And it's just BS. The truth is it's bullshit. What happened to change it was money. People decided to make money off of recovery. Beit Tshuva, we take everyone who's appropriate, whether they can afford it or not. In fact, 80% of the people who live here, and we're a long-term treatment facility, 80% of the people pay $500 or less per month. People stay here 9 months to a year. They go through different transitions. And just the idea of the 30-day program was insurance. You can't get sober, get right. You can't even get you just about get the fog cleared after 30 days. And programs started giving people all kinds of drugs for detox in 26 of the 28 days. And then all of a sudden told them, go be good. But nobody had any tools. So first of all, long-term recovery is important. Affordable recovery is important. And number 3, integrative recovery is important. That here at Beit Tshuva, we integrate mind, body, and spirit. And whenever we leave one of those 3 essential components of living out, we're hurting the client.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's where the model shifted to a medical model from spirituality and being accountable and doing the right thing and following the right path. Now it's all about monetization and let's give another drug for another drug. We'll call it legal and we'll just bill your insurance. So instead of getting the skills you need to be a good, productive human being in society where you're supposed to give back, you're now taking a bunch of drugs, not working, sitting around going, well, I have a disease and I'm bipolar and borderline because the therapist said I was to bill my insurance, and that's why I can't find a job. And I'm just not going to be productive anymore.
Right. And everybody's borderline and ADHD.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking to have a reason. It's about, let's look for a solution. Let's stop with all this reasoning gobbledygook and get into solution. And the solution is a holistic program. Do some people need psychotropic meds? Absolutely. Okay, without them, they will not be in recovery. Do a lot of people who are taking psychotropic meds, does that actually help them relapse? Without a doubt. A dear friend and fellow co-worker of mine, Dr. Garrett O'Connor of blessed memory, said the number 1 cause of relapse is sobriety.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
His solution for it was to move from sobriety to recovery.
That's true.
Take all the lessons of all the people who have survived tragedy. He used to do a whole PowerPoint on the similarities between Holocaust survivors and people in recovery with the trauma and everything. And then what am I going to do? And it's a good model for people in recovery to look at, because people lost everything and then they had to rebuild their lives. In active addiction, we lose everything. Everything. Now, how do I rebuild my life and rebuild the lives of those around me? Because the other piece is that I have ruined everybody else's life. Nobody gets away unscathed. Nobody who knew me got away unscathed. Everybody was impacted. Now I have to go and I have to restore my own dignity, my inner dignity. And I have to restore the dignity to other people, because that's what I robbed from them. I spiritually raped them in that I took their trust and I used it against them. M. Scott Peck, the famous psychiatrist and theologian and author who wrote The Road Less Traveled, among other books, said, defined evil as using someone's vulnerability against them. That's what we do in addiction. And the only way to be in recovery is to stop that and to honor people's vulnerabilities and restore the dignity through the amends process and through living well and living differently. What Big Pharma has done is they are still preying on people's vulnerabilities and people's ignorance, and they are committing atrocious evil, as are the doctors who keep swearing by it. Because when you're on 6 milligrams of suboxone a day, you're loaded. And then you have, what about meth? What about pot? What about alcohol? What about gambling? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're only trying to pigeonhole one thing like the opioid crisis, you're missing the real problem, which is addiction. Addiction is the problem, and it manifests itself in a myriad of ways. Seeking power, prestige, and glory is an addiction. Okay, needing celebrity, needing this, needing that in order to be okay as a human being. That is the road, that's the path to addiction, and that's the path to spiritual, emotional ruin. And it fucks with everybody's minds, too. So it is this sense of, now what am I going to do? I've lost all that. What I went to for my solution, which was to alcohol and crime, I felt half a step off all of my life. As soon as I got drunk, the first drink of alcohol relieved it. So the question I had asked myself is, how do I get out of feeling like this? It was the wrong question. I had the right answer, but it was the wrong question. Had I asked the question, how do I get through this, alcohol and crime never would have been an answer. When I asked that question, how do I get through, sitting in a jail cell one day in 1986, the answer came to me that God was trying to give me a message, and I had to sit in prison until I could figure it out. And I began to study, and I began to pray. And I realized from the first chapter of Genesis, where it says the world was unformed and chaotic, that's my world. It's not just the greater world, but it's my world, my inner world. And then reading about Adam and Eve naming things. So when Adam started to name things, as soon as you name things, when I name my fears, I can embrace them instead of run from them. When I name my strengths, I can use them instead of hide. When I name my love, I can have deep union and connection with God and with others. Then you go to the Garden of Eden story. The sin is not eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. For me, the sin is God calls Ayeka, where are you? And the man says, I'm hiding. I cried when I read that because I knew how long I'd been hiding and how long God had been calling. I heard God through my mother, through my brothers, through my sister, through my relatives, through my friends, through everybody that had ever called out and said, Mark, stop, Mark, we want you. And I just hid from them. And having that spiritual awakening put me on this path, and I've been on it ever since. And I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes. I still screw things up. I still get people mad at me. I'm still rough and tumble. You know, you can take the boy out of the street. You don't take the street out of the boy. And yet I live so well, and I'm connected to so many people. So, you see, the deal is, what's the question this experience is the answer for? Because if I have the right question, I'll find the right answer, the right solution. If I have the wrong question, whatever I do, even though it might quote-unquote work, it's still going to not be right and be good for everybody.
So what do you recommend for people that have been through some of these more commercial treatment centers where they've gotten the standard run-of-the-mill hour of therapy a week, group session, massage, yoga, and they come out and they don't have the spiritual component. And they don't have the tools to be recovered. They might be clean and sober, but they're not recovered. What do you recommend they do?
Well, what I always recommend is, of course, meetings. You get a lot of spirituality in AA. And I also always recommend seeking out a spiritual guide, a spiritual counselor. One of the things that we do here at Beit Shuba is that everybody has an addiction counselor, a therapist, and a spiritual counselor. Every one of our 140 residents, every one of them has that. So that they get in the habit of being able to hear the call of their soul and learn the language of their soul. And rather than running away from that intuitive voice, they instead turn around and embrace it. So no matter what their mind says, they check with their spirit, with their soul, with their gut instinct, if you will. I don't know if you know this, but there's as many nerve endings in your guts as in your brain.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So when you get a feeling in your gut, when you get that gut instinct, stop letting your brain override it. So what I say is that my soul now is the arbiter. My emotions and my intellect have votes, but they no longer have veto. My soul can veto what my mind wants, the lies my mind wants to tell me. I mean, there's some great exercises that we've done over the years. One of them is every day write down the lies you tell yourself. Classic is, I'm not good enough. That's a lie. I'm defective. Wrong. Another thing is to be able to write down what was I oblivious to today. Every night, take a look and see, what did I miss today? What was right in front of my face and I chose to ignore it? It gives you such a wider view of your life and of life in general. A classic thing is, how many people just sort of don't even see the homeless person? Or if they see the homeless person, they ignore. Or they may throw a quarter or a dollar into the cup, but never look the person in the eyes. Think of how many times I'm oblivious to seeing another human being, seeing the divine image in another human being. I mean, all of these things go through me.
That's excellent. That's excellent advice. And you have a book out, I believe, on Amazon, right?
Yes. So in my book, Finding Recovery in Yourself in Torah, Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And I take, there's 54 sections in the Jewish calendar year that we read from the Torah. 54 sections of these first 5 books. And for each one of those, I take a verse for every day, and then I do a little explanation, and then I finish up with questions. See, Callie, the whole thing is questions. Are we asking the right questions of ourselves and of other people? Are we seeing people not as victims, but as people who have been victimized? Am I seeing myself as somebody, I've gotten taken advantage of? In some ways, life, dealt me a tough hand when my father died when I was 14 years old. And I made it myself a victim from that, as opposed to just realizing I don't have to be defined by that. So the book helps people figure out how to define themselves. It gives them spiritual, emotional, and intellectual exercises and a way of pointing their being in a positive manner each day. So there's 365 pages, needless to say. And it's a way of really being able to use eternal wisdom. Because the Bible is a book of eternal wisdom and eternal truth. I'm not going to debate what happened and didn't happen. I just know that I see myself in every chapter of the Bible. The entire Bible. Now I'm much more familiar with the Hebrew Bible. I don't know much about the Christian Bible. But I do know that when I see myself in it, I have a lot of compassion for my ancestors, and I have a lot of gratitude that I'm living in the United States of America in 2017, and I have freedom. When I think about what my grandparents went through so I could be free, it's really, how can I do anything but honor their struggle and their courage in leaving everything they knew for a strange land with a strange language. And by doing that, I have the gift of freedom. I have to honor that rather than take advantage of it. I have to be grateful rather than be entitled. And my book helps to do that. My other book, The Holy Thief, which is the story, up until I got ordained, the story of my life, I think that's a book that gives hope. Any of the books by M. Scott Peck, and this other lady, Harriet Rossetto, wrote a book called Sacred Housekeeping. And it's the story of how her journey, she wasn't a quote-unquote drug addict, but she talks about her own addiction to existential pain and misery. See, I believe that we can live a life of joy, and most people live a life, as Thoreau said, a life of quiet desperation. So we have a choice. And if we have an integrated life of body, mind, and spirit, and we let our spirit run our lives, owing to that deep knowing of our intuition and of the universe, and connect to the universe, then we're living lives of joy rather than misery. Low-grade misery, I call it. And that's the key. That is the key to how to live well. That is the response that we need to have to this crisis of addiction. And it's not government and it's not doctors. It's one person reaching out and saying to another, see you. I care about you. Not what you're going to do for me. Not what I think you should be. But I want to help you be the best you can be. That's the solution. And when we do that with addicts, and then with family members, and with community members, all of a sudden, the whole world changes. Many years ago, my oldest brother died, 16 and a half years ago. And a guy came up to me and said, I don't know if you remember me. And I said, I didn't. He said, I met you years ago. I'm the guy that you yelled at because I didn't say hello to your brother. And my oldest brother, Stuart, used to sit outside the old home. He was living in the old home. He had multiple sclerosis. And he would smoke, and he would say hello to everybody that walked in. Most of the people didn't even look his way. And of the people who looked his way, half or more didn't respond. This one guy didn't respond, and I was there, and I get a little crazy, so I ran after the guy. And the guy said, well, would you introduce me to your brother? And I said, absolutely. From that time on, this man used to go see my brother every time he went to visit his relative at the home. He'd stop by to say hello to my brother. And he said to me, he said, I started to say hello and be interested in what was going on at the dinner table, and my family life got better. I said hello to every one of my employees, and my business became more productive. Now, I walk down the street saying hello to everybody, and people look at me as crazy as they looked at your brother, and my life is immeasurably better.
Rabbi Mark, we've gotten so far away from that with social media and Facebook and texting that people don't even talk anymore. They text. They sit across from each other and they text. And they're on Facebook and they're on Instagram and Twitter, and there's no human connection anymore. Everything is so cold and so distant. And I think that has a lot to do with why addicts can't get sober, because we don't talk anymore. We don't sit and discuss our feelings. Everything is an LOL or a WTF. There's no, talking, no actual communication. and there's no touching. We used to hug each other,
Right.
and we don't do that
Well,
anymore.
That's the beauty about meetings. Everybody gets a hug.
Very cool. It was a pleasure having you on. I really appreciated your conversation and your thought process. It's refreshing to see something other than here, people going, have a drug, go to treatment, do what you're supposed to do in treatment, and everything will be magically better. It's nice to hear that there's an actual process to recovery, and there's a difference between being clean and sober and being recovered. And then once you're recovered, it's going on to give back to your community and be a human helping other humans. And it's refreshing to hear that. So how does my audience reach you? What is your Twitter handle or your Instagram, or do you have Facebook?
Yes, I'm Facebook at Rabbi Mark Borovitz. I have Twitter at Rabbi_Mark. The R and the M are capitalized. I can be reached at Rabbi Mark at rabbimark.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know they can find your book on Amazon, correct?
Yes, and anybody that ever wants to talk or email or anything, please just get in touch. It's about being of service and sharing the joy and the blessings that have been bestowed on me that are so much greater than my deserving, and I'm just honored. And thank you, Callie. Thank you for getting it. There's so many people that I talk to on these podcasts and things that they just don't get it. If the doctor says, then it must be right. And so you're such a breath of fresh air and doing such an amazing good deed for all of us. And I pray that God blesses you with the strength to keep fighting the fight.
Well, thank you, and I thank you for having you on. It was really nice to hear like-minded individuals, and I'll be out in L.A. next month, and maybe you and I can grab a cup of coffee.
I would love it. It would be my honor.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you.
Well, God bless.
Thank you again, and thank you for coming on to unpauseyourlife.com.
Thank you. Bye now.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. I took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from silent